Hi everyone, welcome to another edition of Adorned with Dignity. Today we're on day 15 and we're talking about the key to protection. And we're going to start out and it states challenging times, and it says we are living in challenging times as per the words of the Navi. It is a time of the trouble for Yaakov. Indeed, Torah study flourishes as never before, and a thirst for spiritual growth has become widespread to an extent unparalleled in our history. But despite this, we are witnessing occurrences that are threatening our very existence. And again, I stated before, the difference in the world from the last year that I taught this effort. And I got to tell you again, I'm going to repeat it. The world is ever changing and not in a way that is comforting. We're truly in the end times. So goes on, it says that Eretz Israel faces constant threats of annihilation. Huge portions of our nations are vanishing through assimilation. People of all ages are suffering terrible diseases, and there are countless children who are abandoning their observances of Torah and mitzvot. In truth, the whole world is in a state of upheaval, and whole countries are suffering from natural disasters such as earthquakes, floods, tsunamis, in addition to the man-made calamities such as war, terror, crime, and severe financial crisis. And it's true, if you're on any of the social media chats, especially, if you're on like a Tehillim chat or anything like that, we're constantly every day. You see this, and you see that the names that are coming up are names of very young people in Klal Yisrael. We're not even talking about older people in our generation. We're talking about, these terrible, terrible, terrible things, lo aleinu, happening to the people of Klal Yisrael. So it says, all this is taking place despite the increase in Torah study and spiritual growth in a generation. So how can we put a stop to this? So it says the key to protection. It says in painful situations, people seek all sorts of segulas in order to bring an end to their troubles. Right? We know that. We know that for sure. People are so eager for a segula. It says, but we have to realize that we can only be helped through Hashem's protection, which is ensured through tznuis. As the pasuk reveals, Hashem says, I'm ready to protect you from all your enemies, yet there's one condition. Your camp should be holy and modest. And indeed, Hashem requires that because he requires that of us because he himself is holy and he is modest. I think sometimes we're so ready to have a segula, instead of just fixing the problem. The problem with a segula sometimes is that, people also tend to put their faith in the segula, not in Hashem. And we have to remember that everything's coming from Hashem. And so he alone is the one that can change the situation. We can't get mad at the situation or, we have to cry out to Hashem. He is everything. There is nothing but Hashem. But Hashem has asked us to do things. And there's multiple times where he says, if my people would only heed my direction, I would in no time subdue their enemies. And, it quotes a few stories. And it says, Harav Aron Yehuda Leb Steinman Shlita explains that what we're experiencing today is an actualization of the next words in the pasuk. If he will see a shameful thing, and it's referring to something immodest, in you, then he will turn away from you. When Hashem leaves us, we are left without any protection. And I'm going to share a story, a personal story that I know personally. It didn't happen to me, but there was a friend of mine who was on a trip in Israel, and she had like a guide, one of those tour guides that kind of show you the ins and outs, and not just the historical things, but all the good places in Israel. And they were actually at a public place, and I forget exactly where it was. But she was attacked, and if you're familiar with what was going on in Israel, that there was these random attacks on people, and the man came and attacked her, and he began hitting her in the head with a bottle, and of course, she was just like stunned, and she was on the floor, and he just kept hitting her, and when she got up, after they took down the man, she got up, and when they got to her, once, because then it becomes like a story, and the news came in, and they asked her, what did they think credited her for saving her life? And she said, it was my tichel. She said, my tichel, there's a lot of padding in there. And my tichel, it saved me because that's what he was hitting. He was hitting the padding. So it's not just beautiful, it's so beautiful, it's a beautiful thing. And ironically, if I find the article, Bli Netter, I'm going to forward it as well. It was really amazing. I remember when my friend told me about it, and she was the one that also told me that there was an article. I just thought that was amazing because, this is exactly what they're saying. This is your protection. And for her, it quite literally was. And, she was not afraid to go out and walk modestly. And she was protected. So it says the Harav Shlomi from Titz and Slita revealed that when we erect boundaries to protect the Kedusha and tznuis of Klal Yisrael, then measure for measure, Hashem will erect boundaries to protect us from our enemies, and we will zochet to greet Mashiach Tzidkenu. Amen. And that's exactly what happened to this woman. So we're going to finish out, and it says the head covering of a woman. And it says the head covering of a married woman serves as a shield to protect her family and all Klal Yisrael. And the Gemara teaches that throughout the time when a person performs a mitzvah, he is protected from harm. Indeed, just as the continuous mitzvah of mezuzah protects the home, so too the constant mitzvah of kisurosh protects the woman and her family. And at Har Gerizim, Moshe Rabbeinu revealed to Bnei Israel in the name of Hashem, and all the nations of the earth will fear you when they see the name of Hashem upon you. And the Gemara explains that this refers to the crown of tefillin and shel rosh worn by Jewish women, which contains the name of Hashem. Indeed, when Jewish women wear their crown of dignity as per the will of Hashem, this too serves as protection for Klal Yisrael. Very true. Very, very, very true. And I got to tell you, in our area, we have a lot of people who would otherwise probably not be so pleasant to Klal Yisrael. And I got to tell you that oftentimes when they see me, I'll find that they kind of give a nod of kavod, thankfully, and obviously I swiftly walk on and try to minimize my appearance in front of them. But this is a crazy world, and I got to tell you that more and more that we are getting closer to Mashiach, crazier and crazier things are happening. And I think it's incumbent upon us all to do all that we can to make sure that we are drawing upon all the kedushin that we can. This is not a time anymore to be playing around. We're at the end, Habibi. It's not worth it. Let us learn from the things of the past. Let us learn. Time and time again, we see what happens when we turn away, Has v'shalom, when we turn away from Hashem. And I pray that everyone comes back to Him in faithfulness. And I hope for the sake of Hashem, that when the question is asked, and it's coming, who is for Hashem? I pray that there's going to be a lot of people, and I hope there's a lot of women, a lot of modest women standing up for Hashem. But that's it for today, and I hope we'll all be together again soon. B'ezrat Hashem.